Hey everyone, happy Sunday. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I had a really nice weekend. And I just wanted to come live here tonight for a little while and chat with you about core values, right? And how do what impact do they have in our lives? Because right, our values are what drive us, are what help us make the decisions that we're going to make, or help us be who we are and define who we are, right? And core values, they don't have to have anything to do with religion. Sometimes they do. Some of our core values revolve around religion, but some of it is just the choices that we make every day in our life and how we choose to live our lives. And is really super important. I would love it if you could throw in the comments some of your core values. Is there a value? Is there a way that you live? Something that drives you, that defines you, right? That when somebody thinks of you, that's what they think of, because that would be sort of what I think of as core values. And this is actually something that I have a conversation a lot with my kids, about how do they want the world to see them? Right? How do they want to portray themselves? When somebody thinks of each one of them, what do they want? What do you want them to think of, right? And I've been talking about this a lot because remember we went through my whole thing at Disney with our kindness initiative, because that's how we want to be seen, right? We want to be seen as kind people and generous people. But it's really something that's super important for each one of us to think about what are those core values? What are we? Who are we? And how do they define us? Hey, Jackie, integrity. Integrity is a great one. Yes, integrity is a big core value for many of us. And I was actually, so my daughter, my eldest, is 12, and so that means it's time for her bat mitzvah. She officially became a bat mitzvah when she turned 12 back in April, but we're celebrating at the end of the summer. And this is one of the things that as a person, as a girl who becomes bat mitzvah at 12 or a boy who becomes bar mitzvah at 13, right? Some of this ties into this, right? They're now responsible in the eyes of Judaism to be responsible adults, and their core values and their driving factors in their life is really what defines them, and they start, having to live like that. And so it's something that I've been talking a lot about with my daughter, and I keep looking over because I have a book here that I'm going to show you in a second. I keep talking to my daughter about, really, you're 12 now, and how is it that you want the world to see you, right? Now is the time that we start really learning and practicing those things as we get older and really come into for her, into being a young woman and into an adulthood. So one of the things that we're doing for her bat mitzvah to make it really special, for those of you who have not been around me long may not realize, but my daughter is a huge Harry Potter fan. Huge Harry Potter fan. So am I. She comes by it naturally. And we love Harry Potter in this house, especially the two of us. And we are actually part of her bat mitzvah. I know I've talked about with you that part of her bat mitzvah is revolving around Chai Lifeline and our love for that amazing organization. And she just emanates her core values, right? I mean, what she wanted to do, she has dedicated her main event for her bat mitzvah. She's dedicating to Chai Lifeline. She has asked in the invitation, it says, in lieu of gifts, please make a donation to our Chai Lifeline fundraiser, right? So that is such a core value that came from her. That didn't come from us. And I'm so proud of her and so impressed with that, because that emanates from her. But part of this, back to her love for Harry Potter, so that is her Sunday morning main event. But we wanted to make something special for her Shabbat part. And so she has this major love for Harry Potter. So those of you who are Harry Potter followers, and if you are Jewish, you may or may not have heard of this, but there is an awesome book, and a Rabbi Moshe Rosenberg, who wrote the book Morality for Muggles, Ethics from the Bible, and the World of Harry Potter, right? Which is super cool. Hey, Sherry. Hey, Irina. And she, right, so and he also wrote the unofficial Hogwarts guide to the Hogwarts Haggadah for Passover, and he wrote one for Purim, for the Muggle, the Muggle Megillah. So he's written all kinds of great books, but this was his first. And we are actually bringing him here for Shabbat, to spend Shabbat with us, to be talking about, Harry Potter and Judaism. And it's super, super cool. That's really special. But so she and I have been going through, I read this when I first got it, probably 2 years ago. But she and I are going through and learning it right now so that she can have learned it and she can be able to talk about it and that weekend. And one of the things in it that we were talking about yesterday when we were going through, because we're learning, a few little sections at a time. And one of the first sections talks about manners, manners. And it's really powerful. And this got the two of us into a great conversation because it talks about manners and how people, right, the manners that they show and expect from others, it really says who we are, right? How we treat others, no matter what else is going on around us, really says who we are, and it defines who we are, right? So even if somebody is not treating us with kindness, if we respond back in kindness, they're not treating us in kindness, that's on them, right? That's about them. But when we respond back in kindness, that's on us, right? And that's such a powerful thought. And it talks about, he talks about this in here, and he talks about that how Dumbledore responds in kindness in so many things, even, spoiler alert, even on his deathbed, he responds in kindness and he responds with manners. And, right, it's so important. And it's something that, she and I talked a lot about this yesterday and learned it. And then when she had today, there was something that she was arguing with her sister, and her sister did not respond correctly. And she started not to respond correctly. And I said, wait, stop. Let's remember what we learned yesterday, right? The way you're responding is saying who you are, right? It's telling the world who you are. And that's a really hard concept for a lot of us to learn, and especially when we're upset over something, right? It's easy to fly off the handle and respond in, a negative way. But is that what we want to portray for ourselves? Is that who we want to show the world that we are, right? Probably not. Probably not, unless that's really who we are, right? And it's something so powerful to think about. Really, stopping to process, what are my core values? What is so important to me? And what do I want to show the world about who I am? And then how am I going to do that? Even on my worst day, right? We all have bad days. We all have cranky days. We all have, right? But how can we, even on those times, show our true essence? Because those bad days aren't our true essence, right? Those bad days just are bad days, right? And sometimes, and I talked about this the other day when I was talking about, fake it till you make it, right? Sometimes we have to put on that smile even if we're not feeling it. And it's not being ingenuine. It's not being, ingenuine, or it's not being fake, right? But it's digging deep and really digging deep to find our core values, our core essence, who we are, and showing that whenever we can. Because when we do that, that brings that back out, right? That brings that back out. If we're having a really bad day and somebody can get us to laugh, or somebody can say something to bring out, some of that disappears, some of that goes away, right? And so that's that power. And having that in the forefront of our minds is so powerful. This was part of the conversation we were talking about yesterday, which wasn't about this, but it all sort of tied in, and I brought it back to her. This, by the way, if you have never read this book, I highly recommend it. It's pretty awesome, regardless of whether you are a Harry Potter fan or not. But it, I was talking to her yesterday. I was talking to actually all three of my kids yesterday, right? About the power of just being kind, and that we don't necessarily know what it's going to do out in the world, right? When we show positivity. And it was actually sort of an interesting twist in the conversation. Our whole trip to Disney, for those of you who have followed along, that was a semi-last minute thing, our crazy, 11-day trip to Disney. My kids were supposed to go to sleepaway camp this summer. And for some crazy circumstances, they didn't get to go. And they were devastated. Elliot had never been before, so he wasn't quite as devastated. But my girls were really devastated. They love camp. That is like their heart and soul. They look forward to it all year long. And they were devastated, which is why we went to Disney instead, right? So we went to Disney instead, and we had a great time. And my daughter was talking to me yesterday, my 12-year-old, same one who's being bat mitzvahed, and she said, Mommy, I had an amazing time at Disney. And she was thanking me for it. She said, but I really wish I could go to camp. And I said, I know. I said, I get it. I said, It stinks. It really, really stinks. And I said, but you know what? I said, so many good things came, that's a stinky thing, but look at the good things that came out of it. I said, first of all, we got to go to Disney. I said, it was an awesome trip, right? And she said, yeah, it was an awesome trip. I mean, there was no question that it was an awesome trip. Those of you guys who followed our pictures, we had an amazing time. I said, but so many good things came out of that that would not have happened had you gone to camp. And so we started talking about some of the things that happened. But I said to her, I said, every single person that we smiled at and we said thank you to, I said, we made a difference in their lives. And I said, we don't know which of those people, especially those employees, when it was hot and miserable and cranky people were there and whatever else, we have no idea which of those people just needed that, who we lifted up by saying that. And I could see the wheels in her head turning, and she's like, she got it, right? I said, so we were given an opportunity, even though there was a stinky situation for you, we were given an opportunity to turn that stinky situation into something good, maybe for somebody else, right? And to create these amazing memories. And at the same time, so we're having this conversation, and then my husband jumps in to the conversation, and he said, there was also, remember that scavenger hunt we went on? And she said, yeah, I mean, how could we forget? It was a highlight of, one of the highlights, many highlights of the trip, right? We did the scavenger hunt. He said, there was a woman on the scavenger hunt who's, a mother on the scavenger hunt. He said, so who I started talking to, and he said, where she works, he said, she and I could be perfect partners for my business. He said, if that works out, he said, which I think it's going to, he said, it's going to help her company. It's going to help my company, which in turn is going to bring business, which in turn is going to help make more money to be able to do other trips like this. Plus, all of my employees who are part of this are going to benefit from this. He said, had you gone to camp, we never would have gone on this trip, and we never would have met her. And there's a whole lot of lives that are going to be positively affected by that. And I could see her eyes sort of light up, right? And it's a whole different way to look at the world. It's a whole different way to learn to process things, right? Sometimes things that are really stinky happen in our lives, but how do we respond to them, right? Do we respond to them with manners? Do we respond to them in kindness and find the joy in it? Or do we let it get us down and knock us on our butts, right? And sometimes it does knock us on our butts. I'm going to be totally realistic, right? I'm going to be totally real here. Sometimes it does knock us down. A lot of times it knocks us down. But are we going to let it keep us down? And that's the big difference, right? Where can we find the good in these things? Where can we grow from them, right? Where can we say, wow, there's an opportunity. This bad thing or this not so ideal thing happened, but where's the opportunity for something even better, right? It's sort of one of my favorite sayings, man plans and God laughs, right? We make these plans and we think they're going to go on, but there's a bigger picture to all of it. And when we can learn to find that bigger picture, we can find so much joy in our lives. When we can learn to tap into and understand our core values of what makes us who we are as individuals, and we can grow from that, that's where we're going to find happiness, and that's where we're going to find strength, and that's where we're going to find success, right? And whatever that we do. Hey, Michael. Hey, Gail. That's where we're going to find success in everything that we do, right? That was a big key piece for me, right? When I finally made the change to get healthy, right? In all aspects of my life. And it wasn't just about the physical weight loss. It was about everything. It was when I finally was able to tap into my core values and really let them shine. And let them shine out and let them be my driving force. And not that I'm perfect at it, right? Like I said, we all have bad days. Hey, Karen, we all have bad days. We all have days that it takes over. I can tell you there are plenty of times that, I lose my cool with my kids, right? We're not perfect. None of us are perfect. But when we can rein it in, when we can step back and recognize it, that's when we can grow and we can become better. My kids are already talking about, we are going back to Disney at Christmas time. Yes, I might be crazy. It is the busiest time there of the year, which also was one of the things that I said to my daughter, right? Yesterday when we were talking about that, I said, had you gone to camp, we would not have gone back to Disney now, and we wouldn't be considering going back for at Christmas time, right? But one of the things that we're already starting to brainstorm is when we go back Christmas time, how we can sprinkle pixie dust, right? How we can share more kindness and more goodwill while we're there. And we've already come up with a whole bunch of ideas that we're super excited about, right? So we're going to make this next trip into, it's the holiday season and it's Christmas and Hanukkah all together, right? And we're going to go there and hopefully bring some cheer to some people that are there, right? Because again, we thought, Joy of the July was crazy. Christmas and New Year's is the busiest time there ever. But we're going there with a mission to have a great time, to, do all kinds of fun stuff, but also how can we turn that into something good? And how can we turn that into something positive? And so really that's really what I wanted to throw out to you tonight is what are your core values and how can you use those values to make the world a better place? Because if we all do that, so much of the negativity in this world is going to go away. So I hope you have a wonderful night. I would love, love, love to hear from you, hear how, what your core values are and how you're using them to make things, to spread goodness here. Have a great night, and I will be back here tomorrow night and with something else. I don't know. I'll talk to my kids and see what they help me come up with, because a lot of times they're my inspiration of what to talk about. So have a great night, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.